2022 D18 1937 Authentic. I just got it 2 weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, and it's already been in a couple of videos, which is its purpose in life for me. It's a model. It is an example. It's a guitar for us to study and look at because the Authentics are pretty accurate. Modern reproductions of the original. I've had 37 D18s in my hand. I've had, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41. I've had probably every year in my hand. And these are pretty good, especially with a couple of the little modern tweaks that they've made recently. They got the body shape a little bit better, where the shoulders are a little bit squarer than the earlier ones used to be. There's just some things that are a little bit more right. There's a couple of things that are wrong about the Authentic. They're not deal killers or anything, but the saddle, for instance. The saddle is not a true vintage through saddle. This saddle is just like the GEs, where it's a long drop-in saddle. And they've routed the edges very, very carefully, so it's very hard for probably you to tell. But I have taken these out before, and what you'll find out is that the saddle is actually sitting down in the slot. When you look at the ends of it right here, you'll see that they step. So the curve comes down like this, and then you will see a little step where the saddle sits in there. A true vintage saddle, when it's not glued in, can be pushed back and forth on the slot, and these can't. They sit down into the bridge just a little bit. So that's one thing, one little detail that's not quite accurate. And I'm sure that has to do with the modern production. And I'm fairly certain, I can't be positive about this, but I'm fairly certain that they probably put these saddles in place before doing the actual bridge shaping, because they get the curve so exactly correct that I think that's what's going on. If you ever replace one of these saddles, it's difficult, if not impossible, to get that curve exactly correct. You can get it real close, but I don't even try that much because the vintage guitars didn't really do that. The saddle was a little bit different curve than the bridge itself. So anyway, that's one thing that's a little bit off. The bridge size itself is just a hair off. Just little things like that. But the biggest thing that really bugs me about all of the Authentics is the neck shape. The neck shape and the neck size are just, I don't think there's one authentic that I really, really like. In fact, I think maybe the whole range of them. The 1931s. You get the OM18, the OM28, the 1931s, and I have a video on this, and I commented and I said, that neck is perfect. That neck is so good. Why couldn't they model them all after that? But they don't, for some reason or another. The problem with this D18, and this neck especially, is massive. Now, I have played real 37s and 38s, and I know of one 37 that's a pretty famous guitar among the Martin guitar people. I played, in fact, I think I did a neck reset on it. I can't remember. I did some work on that guitar. And I know that at one point I had that guitar and I had a 39 that I've worked on several times, and it's probably my favorite pre-war guitar, actually. I had a 39 and I had a 1946 D18, and I was babysitting them in the hotel room while everybody went out for an extended supper, So I'm in the hotel room for 4 or 5 hours with these three guitars, and I just did not get along with that 37. It had this kind of neck. And I don't think it was this big, though. I would like to measure them because I've only just started measuring necks, but it was round shaped. It's like I guess it's a baseball bat. I don't know. But there's not a hint of V to it. It's just a C-shaped round neck like this. And I don't get along with them. The 39 that was in there does not have that shape. It's got some shoulder to it. So it comes out and got a shoulder, but it still has a little bit of a V to it. And it was a much more comfortable neck. Plus, that guitar is a rear shifted. I believe it's a rear X D18. It's a narrow neck, although it feels not skinny. You know, it's one of those where it's like, is this really a 1 11/16? You know, but it just is a comfortable guitar for me to play, and it has that rear X sound, which was punchier and forward. The last guitar in that bunch was the 46, and they had this awesome V-shaped, chunky 1 11/16 neck. It was just so comfortable for me. And if I could have left the room with any one of those three guitars, never to sell it, so money's not a factor here, and I have to have that guitar for the rest of my life, I can't do anything with it, I would have left with the 46. It just had the neck, you know. The neck was so good, and that guitar sounded really, really good. I had done a lot of work to it, including taking the back off and fixing some chronic loose basses. All right, point of all this being, the necks are so particular to me. That is in my interface with the guitar, and it doesn't matter how good the guitar sounds if I can't get comfortable with the neck. And conversely, if I'm really comfortable with the neck and the guitar is just, you know, pretty good sounding, I'll take that any day. Any day. So last week, starting on Wednesday, I had a customer come by and drop me off a D28 Marquis. And it has been a long time since I've had a Marquis in my hand. And I did some setup work on it, things like that. But I play that guitar for hours because the neck on that thing was so good. It was just the perfect Martin guitar neck for me. I mean, there's a couple that could fit the bill, but it was just so good. So then I started thinking about, why is this guitar neck so good? And so I got my calipers out, and I have a little database going of Martin guitar necks, and you're going to see a lot of graphs from that in here in just a minute. And I measured the Marquis, and I measured this guitar. And honestly, I was really, really, really surprised at what I found out. To cut to the chase, the 37 Authentic has got the second fattest Martin neck I have ever measured. It's fatter than the D28 37 Authentic, which is a neck I just cannot stand. I've had a 37 Authentic, 37 D28, 37A, and I couldn't stand the neck, and I ended up selling the guitar because of the neck. I could adapt to it, but why? You know, there's a lot of it. There's many other guitars that sound good enough, or just as good, or pretty close, and the necks are fabulous, like this Bluegrass 16 that's hanging on the wall right here. Man, it's got the dreaded MLO neck on it, and I just get along so good with that neck. To me, that guitar is just immediately comfortable, and it's got terrific sound. It might not be quite what the 37 Authentic was. I don't know. I think it's pretty close. I think it's better in some ways. But anyways, the point is, I'm not going to wrestle with a guitar that has a bad neck. So this 37 Authentic, D18 37A, has got absolutely the fattest neck, second fattest neck that I've ever measured. The only one that was fatter was the D45 1936 Authentic. There's been a lot of videos here, and every single time I commented, this neck is huge. I can't play it. I can play if I stay in one position. So if I come up here and I stay here, I can get used to this and I can play it. And if I stay here, I can play it. But I can't go up and down the neck because the taper of this neck, that is the difference between here and here, is so radical. You'll see this on the charts. The taper goes like this. It just goes up at a 45-degree angle taper. And what happens is I'm playing it and my hand goes from this shape to this. And it just, it changes the whole attack of my fingers, because when I've got this big massive neck, the angle and the attack of my fingers changes, and I'm having to do things with my fingers in order to get them in here clean, especially up the neck, where I'm very, very likely to do a cross picking for areas like this sort of thing. And it's critical for me to get my fingers in there and get clean so I can get that. So shifting that down like that, my hand is constantly shifting. It's changing position, and I don't like that. Where I get on that Bluegrass 16 taper is very, very consistent. You'll see this in the video, on the pictures that are coming up. So consequently, it feels the same up here as it does down here, even though it has some taper. It feels very similar up here. So it's the taper. Now, the other thing that's going on is this is a round baseball-shaped neck right here. It's got a profile that's rounded. And what I've learned about that, I had a D18 1939 authentic way back in the day, and I have a video on this, back in the day. And you can see me on the video discover this thing. Every time I picked up that 39A, I thought, this neck is so skinny. This way. It feels so skinny. I just couldn't get comfortable with it. And then I had a 70s D18 in the shop, a 72 or 73 or something like that. And I'm playing that guitar, I'm like, this neck is perfect. It's just, man, this is it. This neck is really, really good. So I got my calipers out, and I'm going to measure these two necks and see what's the difference between these two necks. And to my absolute amazement, those two necks were almost identical in width. I measured the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, and the 12th frets. The widths were so identical. They were as identical as if I measured each guitar twice, you know what I mean? You get a little variation here and there, but they were so identical, and the depths were identical. Those necks, spec-wise, number-wise, were identical. The difference was that the 70s D18 had a V-neck. It had a rounded V-neck, and that one was a little bit more of a V than a lot of them are. It had a definite pronounced soft V-neck. By soft V, what I mean is that the back of the neck here does not come into a V, like this. The whole neck. I have played necks like that. The very early Santa Cruz Tony Rice's had a very, where the sides were just straight and a point at the middle. That's a hard V. The soft V's got a little bit more of a round like this, and the tip of it up here is not sharp, but it's a rounded V. So the whole neck is just sort of rounded, but there's a definite V in it. This neck is like this. It's like a half dome. It's like you took an orange and cut it in half and set that on the counter. Total half dome. The 39A had that half dome, half round shaped neck. The 70s had the V neck on it, and that was the only difference between the two of them. To where I couldn't stand one neck, and I loved the other neck. I thought, man, this neck is so good. Well, that's what this guitar's got. It's got that roundish baseball bat neck on it. So, this is a thick neck. So I'm thinking about a couple things here. Just for fun here. I'm thinking about the guitar kind of needs a neck reset. I've got the action where I want it. The saddle is pretty mediocre. The saddle is less than 100,000ths of an inch tall right now. And it's got a fairly good break angle on it, but it's not perfect. I can feel the pins. The pins are sticking up higher than the low E, so I can feel the pins as I move. I just don't like that. It kind of needs a neck reset in order to be really perfect. I am vaguely thinking about just putting a different neck on it. Taking this neck and putting it up on the wall, and then I have it for posterity. That's one of my options. The second option, shaving the neck. Now, let's talk about that, shaving the neck for a minute here. I've measured tons of necks in here. I'm going to show you the clips of that at the end here. But what I want to talk about here is the ethics of modifying a guitar to that extent where I'm going to actually shave the neck. We all know it's going to destroy the value of the guitar. Maybe. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. So if I get my scrapers out and I shave this neck down to where I want it, what's that going to, and then I put a speed neck finish on it. So that's going to be an oil finish, a stain oil finish. Get rid of the lacquer so that you have that smooth, non-sticky finish on here. Now, I know a couple of people have done that already on these, and I know a couple of people that want to do it and don't have the guts to do it or the time yet. So it's a thing that's done. John Arnold did one. You know, he's the guy. He's the one that did the guy I'm thinking of his guitar. John did the work on that. So it's kind of like, well, if John did it, then it must be okay. So I popped the question out on the Martin Guitar Forum, and I said, should I shave the neck? And a couple of people said, you know what? If it was my guitar, I would. Because I think the speed neck is better. And what you're talking about is really just one step further than shaving the finish off. Because once you hit that finish and put a speed neck on there, you've trashed the value of the guitar to the common person. You've trashed it. It's no longer original. And by the time you do that, once you've done that, then you might as well just shape the neck the way you want it. So that was a point. Another person said, you know what? If you do it, if Brian Kimsey does it, and does a neck reshaping on it, to say a D18 GE specification more or less, it might actually increase the value of the guitar. Well, you have more faith in me than I do, but I know that to be true because my 70s guitars sell very quickly. People are always looking for my 70s, my modified 70s. You got any of those for sale? And somebody puts one up for sale and it's gone very quickly, usually. So there is that. There's people that would really like to have a slimmer, more consistent neck on these, and they don't want to do it. They don't have the guts to do it. So will it hurt the value? You know, there's two sides on this thing. To a pure collector who wants 100% standard stock guitar, yeah, probably. To a guy that wants to play the guitar and knows that I did the work and knows my reputation, such as it may be, it might not hurt the value. So we'll see about that. The second thing is this. How much is it going to hurt the value? Let's say it hurts the value $500. And I have to sell this guitar for $500 less than an unmolested version for the foreseeable future, the next 10 or 15 years. $500. Let's say $1,000 loss in value. I lost $1,000 in value. Well, is that big of a deal? I mean, $1,000, you know? In the meantime, I've got a guitar with a neck that I really, really like to play, and therefore I play this guitar more because of that. The second thing is I had a Mercedes Sprinter van, and I had it turned in. It was a camper conversion and all that kind of thing, and I bought it from somebody already camper converted. Anyway, I'm at a dirt bike race up in north of Trinidad, Colorado. I'm out in the desert, you know. We're away from civilization here. And I get in and start the Sprinter up to head home after the race. And every single idiot light on the panel lit up. Oh, golly. About 15 tries later, I got all but about 6 of those to shut off. Still wouldn't start. Long story short, I had to have that towed from there to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to the official Mercedes dealer because nobody could touch it because the codes were deep into the system. And what it ended up being was a transmission control module blew up. And the reason is because the van was wired incorrectly. So it was drawing too much, the camper part of it was drawing too much current from the alternator. The alternator on the Mercedes was not capable of supplying that and recharging the two cabin batteries that were dying. So one cabin battery went flat and it was constantly trying to charge the other one. It was killed this one, and then the alternator is trying to charge those dead batteries, those failing batteries, plus charge everything in the van, and it could not provide enough current to the transmission control module and fry the transmission control module. So long story short on all this thing, cost me $7,500 in 4 months to get that Sprinter back on the road. That was money lost, gone. $7,500. I could buy 2 of these and throw them both in the trash can for the amount of money that I lost on that Sprinter. So you got to take some perspective here. So $1,000. When I was racing dirt bikes, every single race was $500 minimum. Gas, oil, tires, chains, parts that I broke, exhaust pipes, gas to get to the race, food to the race, entry fee for the thing. It just added up. It was a minimum $500 lost every time I did a race. I think it cost me about $9,000 to race dirt bikes that summer. But I was only going to do it once in my life, and now I'm an old man, and now I treasure those memories. Point of that thing cost me thousands of dollars. So if I lose $1,000 on this guitar, is it that big of a deal? Is it that big of a deal? Will I lose $1,000 on it? I doubt it, honestly. I really honestly doubt it. So here's the thing also. The owner of the Marquis came and picked it up from me yesterday, and I told him, I said, I'm thinking about shaving. He played this guitar while he was here in the house, and I said, I'm thinking about shaving the neck on that 37 Authentic to match close as I can the Marquis that you've got here. He said, if you do that and you want to sell it, you call me first. So will I lose the money? I don't know. All right, so what about the ethics of, my gosh, this is a flagship of the Martin Guitar Company, and you're modifying it. Oh, no, it's not the way God and C.F. Martin intended it to be. So what? Do I really care? This is a factory-made guitar. It's not a handmade guitar. It's got a lot of hand-making in it, but it's not a Randy Lucas guitar. I'm not going to insult Randy Lucas. I'm not going to insult John Arnold personally by modifying their guitar. The fact of the matter is I have personally modified both of my Prue OMDs. I know Mario personally. He's one of my best friends. Did I insult him? No. He said, what'd you do? I might want to do that. I'm not going to insult C.F. Martin. They don't care about me. This is a factory-made guitar. The only reason that you value it is because you build it up in your head that there's some sort of holy grail. It's not a holy grail. It's not. It's not even a real 1937. What is 1937 to be 70 years old now? 37, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 10, 20. 70 years old. When this guitar is 70 years old, it might be a holy grail by then, but I doubt it because they're still going to have the originals. It's always going to compete against the originals. And it's hard to find an unmolested copy of an actual 1937, a version. It's hard to find an actual unmolested 1937 D18 right now. Yeah, the bridges have been replaced. They've had bracing work. They've got cracks in them. A lot of those necks have been refinished, and they still sell for way a lot of money. If you find an unmolested version. The reason that it's worth so much money is because of all of the molested versions. So by doing a modification to this guitar, I'm actually increasing the value of the unmolested ones. And so the owners of those should thank me for molesting one and thereby thinning down the pool a little bit here. But 70 years is a long time. You'd be better off putting your money in the stock market for 70 years. So, is this really a holy grail? Not really, It's a really good guitar. I would grant it that. It's got good construction, but is anybody going to care, really, if I modify the neck to my liking to make it more like what? Making it a playable guitar, a more playable guitar, one that I would enjoy more, one that might actually be more saleable to a certain group of people. So there's some ethics about, making modifications like that. All right, we're going to cut out of here now, and I'm thinking about it. I'm just thinking about it. I'm examining this issue, but I want you to know how thick this and fat this neck is. It's difficult for me to play this guitar. Let me play something hard like Tarnation. And watch how difficult it is for me when I get up into this part of the neck. It's just like, man, I got to struggle. It's not smooth. It's not easy. It's not reactive. I talk a lot about a guitar being reactive. And that's when I'm exploring a guitar. I'm improvising. I'm making up things on the fly. And is the guitar going to work with me or is it going to work against me? And right now, this one's working against me. I am absolutely having to fight to play this guitar where I want to play it. So let's just play Tarnation a minute and pay attention to that. So. Man, I pulled it off, but that's a hunk of neck right up in there. That is a hunk of neck. All right, I want to look at these graphics that I took of neck measurements, and I'm going to show you this guitar. That'd be the best way to make a modification. Just put a good crack in the back of it, and then I can do whatever I want with it. I'm going to show you this guitar versus the D45 1936 Authentic. I'm going to show you versus the D28 1937 Authentic. And then I'm going to show you versus all of the Authentics that I have on hand. There are 4 of them. 2 of them are 1 3/4 inch necks, and 2 of them are the 11 16 inch necks, the data that I have for them. I want you to look at the taper. I want you to look at not only just the width and the depth of the thing, but look at the taper of the neck. How fast it goes from the skinny first position to the middle, to up here on the upper position. Then there's going to be a last one, a couple of them in there maybe, where I put 4 Authentics versus a 1948 D28. I've had that on video. That had a fat neck, but it was an even taper. It was fatter at the nut than any of the Authentics. It was a fat nut, but the taper was relatively flat. Relatively. I mean, it did go up a little bit, about 20, 30 degrees or something like that. I had no problems playing that one. So it's not the depth of the neck as much as it is the taper of the neck. Because, let me think, the 41, the D28 41 Authentic starts with a very narrow neck and then goes up, but it has the taper. And so I've always complained about that. I say it's too thin back here at the beginning of the neck. And so it's not that it's fat up in here, it's that it's too thin back here, and so it's the taper that's weird on it. And I still play it pretty good, but because the whole overall thing is thinner, I can adapt to that a little bit better. Whereas when it gets thicker and thicker and thicker, that taper just gets unmanageable for me. So look at that. Look at the taper, and then pay attention when I show the Authentics and the 48. They all end at the same point over here. So they up here at this 9th fret, which is as far as I can measure, they're all the same. What varies is down here at the 1st fret and then how fast they get to that. So the point is, I don't think there's going to be any issue with shaving this neck down. Will it get weaker? Oh, people are weak, it's going to get weaker. No, it won't really get weaker because the 41 Authentic is 100 thousandths of an inch thinner up here. I mean, it's thinner, and it's perfectly fine. It's a stable neck. It's also 1/11/16, so there's less wood going on there. So I feel confident about shaving 100 thousandths of an inch off up here in the top part of it. Well, are you going to get too close to the truss rod? All of these guitars have T-bars on them. The way a T-bar is constructed, it's a T, right? And the cross part of that T sits flush with the top of the neck. The fingerboard goes right on top of that. So all of the T-bars really are the same depth. They're not buried down into the neck, you see. Not like a single way truss rod would do, like Gibson uses or Fender used to use. It's not like that at all. Those T-bars are sitting up on top, right underneath the fingerboard. They're all the same depth. So I can shave to the same depth on here as the thinnest T-bar, which I think is the 41 Authentic, but we'll see when we look at that. So the depth of the nut is the same as a couple of the guitars you'll see on the graphs. So what I'm really going to do is I'm just going to reduce the taper. And in fact, look very carefully at the 1939 D18. It and this one start about the same at the 1st fret. And then the taper on this one goes way past the 39. So by reducing this taper and then giving it a little bit more of a V, I'm actually going to bring it down to what the 39 is. So what I'm going to have is a 39 neck, but with a 1 3/4 inch width. And so there's plenty of wood here. And I'm going to make it a V, soft V. And that's going to really be the main thing. Now, I could come in and just shave a V in here. But by the time I did, the instant I hit this with any kind of scraper, sander, anything, I've ruined it. So if I'm going to ruin it, I might as well just ruin it all the way, you know? I might as well just take it to where I want it to be and get rid of this depth that's right here. I don't have to go all the way down to the 39. I can always come back and do some more later if I want to. But the main thing is to get the soft V cut into there, and then I'm going to reduce the depth of it so that it's a little bit better up in here, a little bit more even taper. And then I would put a speed finish on it, a true oil finish, stain it, true oil. I might go with shellac. I'm a big fan of shellac. Shellac will really start feeling really good, but so with true oil, and I think people are familiar with that. All right, here's how I measure necks, just so you have this for reference. Pair of calipers, and I measure at the 1st fret, like that. And so this one is 1800. 1.8000, so 1800. Then I measure at the 3rd fret, and I'm getting 1906. Move up and down the neck that way. I can go all the way to the 12th on the width. I can go all the way to the 12th, I can get that. Then when I do the depth, I do what I call the real depth. And that is I have the strings, I have the frets, I have everything on here, and I measure, push the strings down to the fret. I measure the string, the fret, back of the neck. So that's the feel in my hand, you see. It includes the frets, it includes the strings. That's the feel that I feel in my hand. As opposed to if you measure just the fingerboard, you don't quite get the fret in there and you don't get the string in there. None of that matters because what's really important is the taper. That's what I'm really looking at. And as long as I do it consistent on every guitar, then it doesn't matter what the actual number is. You could calculate the string out and you could calculate the fret out if you wanted to. If it has light gauge strings on it versus mediums, that's a difference of 0.003 of an inch. That's insignificant. Same thing with the frets. They all have good frets on them. So I don't care about 0.002 of an inch of fret difference. I don't care about that because the taper is going to be the thing that I'm looking at. So what I do there is I just take the calipers and I use the caliper and just push down on the fret like this with my thumb and I measure, boom, the depth, 9/15. Okay? And I work my way down the neck like that and I write it down. So when you see the numbers on the screen, that's what they mean. The other advantage of doing a real depth is you can do the guitar without taking the strings off. So you can go into a shop and you can measure the guitars in the shop, or you can measure somebody's guitar and you don't have to ask them to take the strings off. And you can just do it right then and there. And it takes you just a couple of minutes. Push your strings down like that, measure it, 990, work your way down. Okay? That's how I measure the necks. And it's funny because when I was communicating with Mario Prue about my OMDs, I measured it like that, and he just missed my point there, and he thought I was measuring from the fingerboard, naked measurement. So he sent me these big fat necks. They're horrible. And that's why I ended up shaving down both of my Prues. Because we were going to make new necks and stuff, and I said, why don't I just shave these necks down? If I want a different neck later on, I'll get a different neck from you. I shaved them both down, and that was 2002, and I have never touched them since. So, all right, so I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to pop these charts up on the screen, and so you look very careful at these charts and study them, and look at how fat this 37A is. I don't think I have ever personally had a 37 in my hands that was quite this fat. I know I've had some round baseball profiles, but this is a big honking neck. So, all right. So anyway, probably going to be a video on how to shave a neck pretty soon.